I want to talk about attention, actually, because you spoke a lot about kind of podcasts and how they really bring audiences in. I think one thing that's really interesting about audio is how it naturally fits into audiences' lives. So we've spoken about, the natural fit across all of the different things people do on a daily basis. I think the latest Radar numbers said over 1 billion hours a week. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct.
Yeah, thank you. I'll read your emails. But actually, one thing that's happening now is a radio is not just a passive medium. You said you can do it in the background, and radio has very much been about ambient sound in the background. But actually, what I want to talk about is attention, especially from a marketer's standpoint, because it's very trusted. So do you think radio offers a different type of attention to what you would normally call screen advertising?
Yeah, I think so. I think the two of the big sort of KPIs that radio, for an advertiser point of view, that drives is brand fame and brand equity, right? And it does link back a little bit into those presenters and that talent. It's making sure there's elements of trust, authenticity and credibility, right? If you look in the social space, there's so much noise in terms of influencers in their own guise, but they probably do 2 out of 3, 1 out of 3 of those 3 sort of like pillars that we're talking about. So that's really important. So there seems to be a dichotomy in terms of like sort of lower funnel addressability or brand awareness and equity, right? But they can play 2 really crucial roles together. And I think that's where audio is really powerful, when you sort of marry those 2 elements really strongly.
Do you think it's traditionally been known as an awareness channel and now it's stronger in the bottom funnel?
I think with technology, there is more addressability than ever before. Okay. I think the trap is going too far down the addressability point of view in isolation. You need the broad reach that linear radio and podcasts provide as well. It's when you marry up the 2, that's when you've got campaigns that should work in terms of getting your name out there, delivering the key messages, but also making sure that your audience remember your brand as well and what you stand for.
Perfect. It's a good thing to think about. Yeah. Sometimes people and marketers generally are too focused on precision, So it's interesting to hear that you're kind of having a similar issue. Nick, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I always think back to Jurassic Park in this. Jeff Goldblum saying the scientists spent so much time wondering whether or not they stopped to think if they should. We get a lot of briefs where we've done all this audience work, and then you'd really want to drill down. And I get it. Marketers are under pressure, but ultimately, what audio is good at. I mean, the latest Ofcom audio study came out yesterday saying audio is reaching 96% of the UK. It's a lot. It's reaching a lot of people, and what it's good at is reaching a lot of people very, very quickly and generating fame. Targeting, absolutely, of course it has its place. It'd be ridiculous to say it doesn't, but audio can't do a lot of its best work in silos. Yeah, of course it does. Targeting has its place for more niche audiences. And where efficiencies may be found compared to linear, but we just can reach so many people so quickly. But to develop on what Joe said, we can do that, but we can also do the addressability and the targeting as well. Okay. So I think what we're seeing develop is how brands can think about doing both using the fame. So you've got that bit more top funnel,
right? Okay,
that top funnel element, and then think how can we work down the funnel for a bit more consideration, maybe into conversion as well. But we can start to now look down the funnel as well. But so you mentioned attention. The attention's an interesting one because it's been a bit of a on vogue topic within media recently, and I think when it comes to audio, it's very much an opt-in. It's very much an opt-in kind of medium to consume. And a piece of research that I found really interesting was a couple of years ago, and it was ThinkBox earning attention, and they actually looked at people, what they remembered when they were consuming TV at home, and when they had they're away from the screen, and the recall was better for ones that used audio brands, so they didn't have to see the screen. It was actually the audio which was triggering a lot of the recall.
Interesting.
So that's just another thing we need to think about when we're looking at attention within audio. Is of course the creative needs to be.
Well, yeah, the strength of the kind of the sonic branding, essentially as you called it before.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean that's quite interesting because obviously you mentioned broad reach at the very beginning, and we touched upon smart speakers at the front, and I just wanted to ask about that because is it smart speakers that now allows audio to be much more bottom funnel? because actually it is more action-led if you think about it.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, it does.
Are you seeing that?
It does. We're starting to. It's not really common, but we're starting to see a lot more of it, where brands can, they can put products in people's hands via code sensor phones, for example. Brochures can be sent to people's phones. Links to donate. There's almost a way now to convert listeners into an action. So again, if you've got that, it's not going to work for everyone because people have still got to know who you are. You can't tell people exactly who you are and then tell you buy my product and expect to.
Fundamentals still remain.
Yeah, the fundamentals still remain. Of course they do. But yeah, we can now via this tech and voice activation do this. Alexa Plus is an interesting one. So that's going to move conversations with these devices from more call and response to actually more conversational elements. So
has that happened yet or not yet?
I believe it's in beta in the States at the moment.
I see. Okay.
It's not been launched here, but we've seen the big flashy brand videos, and they're very, very impressive. And there's people there's just people essentially booking holidays, and that kind of it's a whole different thing.
Oh, so they would do that rather than just maybe do the shopping or buy something.
But then that makes brand fame arguably even more important. Absolutely, because people have got to know who you are before the tech makes the decision for you via this. But we are moving into kind of, I think, more uncharted territories now within audio, where the tech is opening up a whole world of commerce.
Are you seeing more kind of like smart speaker briefs at news, Joe, or is it something that you just add on as part of like a bigger campaign?
I think the area that we really see is just around connected listening as a whole. Smart speakers being one of the key platforms to be able to deliver that. So if you take an advertiser like Sky, for example, right, that will be doing a bigger campaign, a brand building campaign across linear, and maybe talking about Sky Sports on talkSPORT, right? That will be one side of it, and then they'll use connected listening to be a bit more targeted in terms of their messaging. Okay. So through Octave at News, during the last F1 season, we were able to create some creative feeding into the AI tool that we use as well, where we could do dynamically inserted creative, depending on the standings of the F1 season that's just gone.
Right, I see.
So if you were listening in the build-up to a race weekend and Verstappen was behind Lando Norris, the creative would be all about making sure you're watching this weekend to see if Verstappen can catch Lando in the fight for the title, right?
I see.
And then that would change as the standards would go. We're getting a lot more of those briefs in terms of how connected listening can help on that front, not just the traditional it's hot or it's raining outside, I need to book a holiday, or time of day. We're seeing lots more examples of agencies really pushing us to think about how we can be more dynamic in terms of our audio ads as well. So that seems to be a theme that's going across the market at the moment.
Nice creative use of media there.
Yeah.
What would something like that cost? Does it come with a lot of money behind it? Because that's the first thing I would think about when I see that. I love the idea, by the way.
It's fairly low investment.
Right, okay.
In terms of from a production standpoint, you just need the media to back it up as well. Radio and connected listening and digital audio is all about frequency, right? We don't have the benefit of sight to help with that brand recall. So the sonic identity is so important for that. If you a media buyer will be looking at the reach impacts and then the frequency, right? It's making sure that reach and frequency is at a good level. We could do all that work, and if that creative isn't resonating in someone's ear, then that's all for waste, really. Right. So it's about getting those two right in particular.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to buy this stuff more based on impressions rather than reach and frequency. So you have to make some very informed judgments on what's the pool of reach, and then what investment do you have to put into it to make sure you're cutting through in the same way that you would in linear, because this is going to get served out on digital devices. To my mum, she listens to it on a smart speaker. That's her radio. To us, it's a smart speaker and it's a clever piece of tech. But to the consumer, it's just a radio. Right. So you've got to put yourself in their shoes, on my mum's high chair, and just take a step back and think what is a considered route of planning here to ensure effectiveness within. You can do all the creative, but how can the creative will help you generate response. There's got to be enough frequency in it to be able to
and I think that's maybe the point I was getting at in terms of how does audio differ in terms of attention to actual screens. I think you made an interesting point that your frequency needs to be higher because you're not seeing it, you're hearing it. So actually, do you need to hear it more times because it doesn't have that video element to it? That would make sense to me, you know.
I think, yeah, sorry, just nip in there. Attention and screens, it's an interesting one at the moment because there's a lot of movement within the market towards video, particularly with podcasts as well. And they're kind of the audio element is very much kind of opt-in. You make the time to do it, whereas the video can be served up to you a bit more via their algorithm at times. Yeah. But they do a really good job of feeding each other, because, you know, you listen to it, long form content, then you might get a reminder on the short form, or you see the short form and then you go to the long form as well. So video is actually helping audio, and I think audio is helping video as well to keep people locked in these audio brands and their ecosystems as well to, you know, capture more attention.
Absolutely.
Essentially.